a large earthquake shook the entire world, causing dungeons to manifest across the land. The dungeons released monsters that appeared from within them, characterized by their glowing red eyes and menacing presence. These monsters weren't affected by any normal weapons, rendering traditional methods of defense useless. The only ones who could combat the monsters were those who acquired a supernatural power known as skills. By using skills to defeat monsters, the skill holders can level up and strengthen themselves to unforeseeable heights. These powerful individuals, who inspire both fear and respect, became known as the Awakened. In the dungeon, a boy was fighting against a goblin. His name is Kisaragi Tsukasa, a level 4 skill holder with the ability to imitate any opponent's skill. He attempted to cut it with his sword, but he failed to copy the skill. With frustration in his eyes, he let his guard down. The goblin took this opportunity and jumped on him. Suddenly, someone using a fire spell saved him from the goblin's attack. Todo Kakeru, a level 15 firemaster, expressed his disapproval of Kisaragi's struggle against the goblin. Todo was regarded as the shining star of the next generation of Awakened, a status attributed to his powerful skill. Skills had begun to manifest in a selected group of humans at the same time the dungeons first appeared, determining one's rank and superiority as an Awakened. Todo ordered Kisaragi to stop sitting idly and start retrieving the magic stones. Kisaragi responded affirmatively. Flame Master, Todo's skill, allowed him to manipulate fire at will, making him extraordinarily powerful. In contrast, Kisaragi's skill, Imitate, let him copy a monster's skill after making physical contact, but with an extremely low success rate and high risk. Other party members mocked Kisaragi for taking too long to clear the dungeon and criticized his skill. Todo intervened, reminding them that they were all comrades and urging Kisaragi to make the most of his flawed skill. Despite his frustration, Kisaragi's motivation remained his sick sister, Mayu, whom he aimed to cure with a magical elixir only attainable through adventuring. This elixir was an omnipotent medicine that could cure any illness, and Kisaragi couldn't afford to give up until he obtained it. Todo's friends inquired about their target for the day, expressing concern about going to the boss's room. Todo revealed their target was the monster's den, with plans to loot all the treasure. In the monster's den, Todo fought the goblins, leveling up from 15 to 16 after defeating almost all of them. Kisaragi felt useless as Todo and his friends easily defeated monsters, leaving him no chance to level up. He questioned the point of coming with them. Further inside the den, they found treasure, but Todo was still searching for something. He blasted a wall to reveal a hidden door, excited to see the bonus room. Bonus rooms, filled with valuable and powerful items, were also likely to be rigged with deadly traps. In front of the bonus room, one of the party members expresses concern about the traps. Todo assures them that it's not a problem and that he has a good idea. Todo then approaches Kisaragi with a sly expression. Todo suddenly slaps Kisaragi, causing him to fall to the ground. He apologizes insincerely to Kisaragi, saying that he's going to die for them. Grabbing Kisaragi by the collar, Todo makes it clear that he plans to use Kisaragi to trigger the traps. Kisaragi, confused and in disbelief, asks what Todo is saying. The other party members realize Todo's dark plan is to use Kisaragi as a guinea pig for traps. Despite their shock, Todo coldly explains that he's simply recycling a useless piece of trash. He then threw Kisaragi through the gate, thanking him for helping and expressing hope to meet again if Kisaragi survived. Kisaragi, frustrated and angry, cursed at Todo. Left alone in the dungeon, he sat on the ground, cursing his luck. Suddenly, a bright flash of light enveloped him, transporting him to an unfamiliar place. As Kisaragi tried to comprehend his surroundings, he found himself in a vast, ominous chamber. He questioned what kind of place he had been transported to, feeling a mix of fear and bewilderment. In this new place, Kisaragi realizes how dangerous his situation is as he faces a giant creature. Each dungeon has its own rank: beginner, intermediate, advanced, heroic, and the final rank that no one has conquered before, mythic. Kisaragi finds himself in a mythic rank dungeon, facing a powerful enemy, the God-Eater Fenrir, a level 80 beast with unknown skills. Shocked and scared, Kisaragi wonders if this is a joke, unable to believe he has been taken to such a high-level dungeon by a trap from a lower rank one. Fenrir, with its glowing blue eyes and fierce look, moves towards Kisaragi, who is terrified. As he tries to gather the courage to fight, Kisaragi clenches his fist as Fenrir approaches. He remembers the day his parents suddenly died, leaving his sister Mayu as his only family. With fierce determination, he vows to survive and fight for his sister's sake. He rushed towards Fenrir, but was easily overpowered by the monster's roar. He made contact with Fenrir but was sent flying. He was slammed onto the wall. Exhausted and wounded, Kisaragi sits on the ground, blood dripping from his mouth. The notification confirms his failure. He feels the weight of his desperate situation, realizing his attempt was unsuccessful. Facing certain death, he apologized to Mayu for being a pathetic brother. Suddenly, a voice commanded Fenrir to sit, and an overwhelming pressure forced the monster to the ground. A girl with silver hair appeared and welcomed Kisaragi into her castle, ignoring his question about her identity. She commented on his condition, deeming him still inadequate for her plans. Touching his face, she whispered a gift to him. Kisaragi felt changes in his body as his skill evolved into Copycat, receiving an immense amount of mana particles and advancing rapidly in level. He jumped from level 4 to 25, bewildered by the sudden transformation. The girl laughed and excused herself, instructing Kisaragi to use his new power to defeat Fenrir to escape the mythic rank dungeon. As she left, Fenrir roared again. Kisaragi blocked Fenrir's claw, discovering that his copycat skill had worked. He realized he had copied Fenrir's skill, feeling a glimmer of hope in the dire situation. Due to the enigmatic influence of the dungeon master, Kisaragi was able to mimic Fenrir's awe-inspiring skill, Heavenly Authority, which could amplify his physical prowess for a fleeting minute. As the information flickered on the screen, confidence surged through him. Victory seemed within his grasp with this newfound power. However, the time constraint demanded strategic patience. He waited, biding his time for the perfect moment to unleash his skill. Suddenly, Fenrir lunged at him, desperate to bring Kisaragi down. But with agile finesse, Kisaragi dodged every attack flawlessly. He marveled, "My body feels so light. It must be due to leveling up. I'm still amazed I copied a skill from Fenrir." Reflecting on his old skill, Imitate, he recalled its meager success rate and single-use limitation. But with his new Copycat skill, he could replicate a target's ability with absolute certainty, and the skill wouldn't vanish after one use. Yet, what did it truly mean to experience a skill firsthand? Out of nowhere, Fenrir's roar reverberated, causing Kisaragi to suffocate under the pressure of the divine wolf force. Helpless, he endured until a notification announced the successful copying of the skill. All relevant data materialized before him. Kisaragi pondered, "I get it now. To experience means to face the skill head-on." That almost had me in tears. As the wolf prepared another assault, Kisaragi, anticipating the move, swiftly dodged. He muttered, "If that had hit me, I'd be finished." Fenrir roared and struck again, each blow shaking the ground. The battle was intense, neither side willing to yield. Kisaragi felt his stamina waning. He needed a plan, fast. Desperation fueled his thoughts, and suddenly, an idea sparked. Remembering his newly acquired skill, he decided it was now or never. "It's do or die!" he shouted. Activating his skill just in time, Kisaragi intercepted Fenrir's ferocious attack, triggering a massive explosion that rocked the battlefield. As the smoke cleared, he emerged unscathed, his energy replenished, his resolve unwavering. Locking eyes with Fenrir, he raised his sword high, silently declaring his defiance. With a mighty leap, Kisaragi soared through the air, his sword striking Fenrir with precise accuracy. Empowered by his first successful hit, he continued his relentless assault, driven by an indomitable will to win. If you're enjoying the adventure, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more exciting content. Now, let's get back to the story. As Fenrir tried to roar, Kisaragi seized the moment, delivering a powerful kick that sent the beast flying. The ground trembled beneath their fierce battle, each second pushing Kisaragi to his limits. Just as he sensed victory, a system warning shattered his focus. Only 30 seconds remained. With the countdown ticking in his mind, Kisaragi countered Fenrir with a flurry of strikes but was pushed back. Both combatants roared, unleashing their skills in a climactic clash. In the ensuing chaos, Fenrir's attack nearly struck Kisaragi, but he dodged it just in time. "If I can't reach him, I'll attack directly," he resolved, charging at Fenrir, who was preparing to counter. Fenrir launched an energy blast, causing an explosion. Kisaragi leaped, drawing his sword. As Fenrir tried to counter again, Kisaragi moved swiftly, throwing his sword. He landed on Fenrir's head, sword in hand, ready to strike. "This ends here," he declared. Suddenly, a voice halted their movements. The system had automatically copied the skill, word play. The same girl from before applauded and remarked, "Well played." Snapping her fingers, she announced, "The fight is now over. This calls for a peaceful tea party." Later, Kisaragi, standing before her, demanded an explanation for her actions. She replied with elegance, "To kill time, I suppose. Adventurers rarely come here, and if they do, Fenrir usually handles them. I never expected to encounter someone like you. Would you hear my request?" Approaching Kisaragi, she said, "I want to explore the outside world. Since mana particles are scarce outside the dungeon, I need your cooperation." "All right," Kisaragi responded without hesitation. The girl was momentarily taken aback by his quick reply. With a laugh, she said, "I didn't expect such a prompt answer. There is a lot of uncertainty and I can't trust her yet," Kisaragi thought. "But thanks to her, I stood against Fenrir. Despite my doubts, I feel helping her would be in my best interest." After a moment of contemplation, he asked, "So, you want to see the outside world? But how exactly do ye—" His vision blurred, and Kisaragi collapsed into the dungeon master's arms. "You've used too much energy. I don't blame you," she remarked soothingly. In a flattering voice, Kisaragi asked, "What is your name?" "My name is Loki," she replied. "I look forward to working with you, Kisaragi Tsukasa." Sometime later, Kisaragi awoke on a hospital bed. Loki commented, "Looks like you're finally awake, sleepyhead." "Who are you?" Kisaragi asked. Loki giggled. "Good grief. Have you already forgotten about me? Such a cold-hearted man." "Wait, you are Loki-san?" Kisaragi asked, his eyes wide with surprise. She gracefully jumped down and replied, "You can drop the honorifics. Just Loki is fine." Climbing onto the bed, she pouted, saying she thought she'd finally get to enjoy the outside world, but Kisaragi had been bedridden the whole time. Leaning in closer, a mischievous glint in her eye, Loki asked if he would make up for thoroughly boring her. After a moment, Kisaragi gathered his thoughts and asked her to tell him what had happened after he fainted. Loki sighed and explained that she had carried him and teleported them to the beginner-rank dungeon. When he inquired how she got him to the hospital, Loki remarked, while picking up an apple, that she had left him in the dungeon while he was unconscious so a passing adventurer could find him. Curious, Kisaragi asked why she hadn't gone outside if she could teleport. Loki's frustration showed as she explained that, as a god, she required vast amounts of mana particles to maintain her true form. This world lacked those particles, so she could only manifest in her immature form, making it difficult to move freely. Kisaragi thought for a moment before joking that she'd be taken to the police station for protection, earning him a playful smack from Loki. When Kisaragi asked why she had helped him, Loki began to explain her need for his cooperation, but then suddenly changed her mind, suggesting they leave that topic for another time. As she snapped her fingers, black smoke began to gather around her. "Where are you going?" Kisaragi inquired. Loki turned her head and, with a smile, bid him farewell, promising they'd meet again. Just then, a familiar voice broke the silence. It was his sister, Mayu, who was in the hospital. She hugged him tightly, tears streaming down her face, and told him he had been in a coma for a whole week. Kisaragi apologized for worrying her, feeling a pang of guilt. Mayu sobbed, saying she didn't know what she would have done if he had left her. Kisaragi comforted her, assuring her that he wasn't going anywhere because they were family. Mayu, holding back her tears, nodded happily and mentioned that she needed to go but would keep resting. As Mayu left, Kisaragi sighed in relief. Loki reappeared, questioning if the girl was his sister. Kisaragi confirmed, explaining that Mayu was indeed his sister and the only family he had left. He shared that Mayu had been sickly since birth and that he had been delving into dungeons, searching for the cure to all ailments. Loki dropped a bombshell, telling him that the medicine he was seeking wouldn't cure his sister's illness. Shocked, Kisaragi asked what she meant. Loki explained that the source of her illness was most likely the dungeon curse, a skill stemming from another mythic rank being like herself. Kisaragi asked if taking down that being would break the curse. Loki confirmed this, and with renewed resolve, Kisaragi called upon her, asking for her help in defeating the being to cure his sister. Loki agreed, stating she was curious to find out who had cursed Mayu. Thanking her, Kisaragi mentioned his eagerness, but also noted he still had to attend school. Loki seemed puzzled by the concept, so Kisaragi explained that Tengetsu Academy was a specialized school for awakened students aiming to become adventurers. He declared that they were now a team, and Loki, doing a fist bump, expressed her anticipation for their cooperation. 3 days later, at the Japan Dungeon Management Organization, the girl at the counter informed Kisaragi that she couldn't allow him to enter the dungeon as a solo party due to the level difference. She explained the safety rules, noting that he was at level 4, while the monsters in the beginner-ranked dungeon, Goblin's Den, were all at least level 5. Telepathically, Loki expressed her indignation, asking if she should turn the girl into mincemeat. Kisaragi reminded her that they had agreed not to reveal his real D-card. He thought to himself that the JDMO still had his old data, and it would be troublesome if they found out he was now level 25 with a different skill set. He decided to leave without causing a scene, but Loki suggested trying the skill word play. Kisaragi hesitated, but then gave it a shot, asking the girl at the counter if it would be possible to enter a dungeon solo. As the skill activated, the girl seemed hypnotized and quietly asked for his ID. Nervously, Kisaragi wondered if they would figure out he used a skill, but Loki reassured him that wordplay's activation couldn't be detected as it was a skill from a god. He glanced at her, realizing he might have underestimated her. After cleverly deceiving the receptionist, Kisaragi scanned his D-card and entered. Brimming with motivation and a serious demeanor, Kisaragi embarked on his first solo dungeon hunt. He thought to himself that no matter what dungeon he had to conquer or what monster he had to fight if it was for Mayu, he would even kill a god. The dungeon they entered, known as Goblin's Den F1, was a labyrinthine cave filled with unknown dangers. Loki turned to Kisaragi and inquired about his plans and aspirations. With a resolute tone, Kisaragi revealed that he was eager to test his strength and see just how far he could push his limits. As they were discussing their plans, a goblin emerged from the shadows. It was a level 5 goblin, brandishing a crude weapon menacingly. Kisaragi, spotting the threat, swiftly drew his sword. With a determined look, he declared that he would begin testing his strength against these adversaries. Without hesitation, Kisaragi charged at the goblin. He slashed the goblin, taking it down effortlessly in a single strike. The goblin fell to the ground. Kisaragi stands over the fallen goblin, clearly satisfied with his victory. Loki, with her arms crossed and a skeptical expression, questions why he's so pleased with himself. She points out that, given his current level of strength, such weak opponents shouldn't pose any real challenge to him. Kisaragi, feeling proud yet slightly defensive, asks for a bit of understanding. He explains that this is his first solo defeat of a goblin, and it means a lot to him despite its seeming insignificance. Loki, with a touch of exasperation, reminds him of his high level. She emphasizes that with his strength, defeating goblins should be easy, and suggests that he seek out more formidable foes to truly measure his capabilities. As Kisaragi picked up the Mana Stone, he fell into deep thought. He reflected on how his level had advanced so significantly due to Loki granting him a large amount of mana particles. This boost allowed him to easily defeat goblins that he previously couldn't handle on his own, making the once challenging fights almost effortless. Kisaragi thanked Loki for giving him strength and supporting him. He appreciated her help in making him stronger. Loki, feeling proud and cheerful, replied that it was an easy thing for her to do. Loki, with a confident and eager expression, asked Tsukasa what their next move would be, showing her readiness for the next challenge. Tsukasa, looking determined, led the way deeper into the dungeon with his sword ready. He declared their goal to reach the boss room and was prepared for the challenges ahead. Tsukasa and Loki continued their descent from floor 1 to floor 5 of the dungeon. Loki expressed her boredom, finding the journey unexciting. She remarked, "This place is as boring as it gets," while lying on the stairs. Tsukasa, with a slight smile, asked, "Were you expecting something different?" Loki poked Tsukasa and said, "Obviously, I expected something more exciting." She revealed her desire for a thrilling battle to get her blood rushing. Tsukasa looked thoughtful as he listened to Loki pointing out that none of the monsters in the dungeon could even be considered worthy opponents for Tsukasa. She emphasized that this was a serious issue, highlighting the lack of challenge they were facing. With a sharp look, Loki said, "Look, the main force has deigned to show themselves." Tsukasa, sword ready, faced the emerging threat in the darkness ahead. As a horde of enemies with glowing red eyes gets closer, Tsukasa noted, "That's a lot of enemies." He then wondered aloud, "Does that mean the boss room is nearby?" Tsukasa leaped towards the enemies and unleashed a powerful attack, striking one down with a fierce blow. Tsukasa declared, "The first move takes the win," demonstrating his swift and decisive combat skills. He charged at the rest, taking them down with ease. He thought about how he had initially worried about fighting them, but now found it surprisingly effortless. As a swarm of enemies charged at him, Tsukasa thought, "What a hassle." He gripped his sword tightly, lightning crackling around it, preparing for a powerful attack. Loki, alarmed by the overwhelming force Tsukasa was about to unleash, shouted, "Stop, Tsukasa!" trying to prevent him from using excessive power. Tsukasa unleashed his powerful attack, Vanguard, which obliterated the enemies and left a deep mark on the ground. Impressed with his strength, he smiled but soon collapsed in pain as red energy crackled around him. Loki, frustrated, reminded him that using divine techniques with his human body had consequences, and Tsukasa wondered why this hadn't happened before. Loki reminded Tsukasa that he was using heavenly authority the last time, which allowed him to use Fenrir's skill without consequences. Confirming this, Loki declared that she would forbid the use of heavenly authority and all other skills copied from Fenrir. As a result, Tsukasa's skills were sealed and became unavailable, leaving him shocked and exclaiming, "What?" Loki explained that sealing Tsukasa's skills was a necessary handicap to prevent him from relying too much on his trump card. She emphasized that a trump card should be saved for last. Tsukasa and Loki finally arrived at the entrance to the boss room, which had an unexpectedly grand appearance for a goblin's lair. The final boss, the Goblin King, could summon an infinite number of goblin minions. Tsukasa, determined and ready, took a deep breath and resolved to face the challenge, saying, "All right, let's do this." After sighting the Goblin King, Tsukasa exclaimed, "So that is the Goblin King." Loki added, "He exudes confidence for a mere goblin." As Tsukasa drew his sword, he wondered why he wasn't feeling scared despite the intimidating presence of the Goblin King, who was revealed to be a formidable level 15 boss. The Goblin King began to move forward, summoning a horde of goblin minions to aid him. Tsukasa, observing the oncoming threat, remained unfazed. He thought to himself, "Compared to Fenrir, this is no big deal. I should be fine on my own." As he prepared to face the challenge, a voice encouraged the Goblin King to stoke the flames of anger and outrage. A notification popped up explaining that the Goblin King and the goblins had entered this berserk state, making them even more dangerous. Tsukasa, noticing the drastic change, exclaimed, "Loki, what did you do?" Loki, with a mischievous smile, declared that this was a test for Tsukasa, urging him to do his best. Tsukasa, surprised and determined, feeling the immense pressure, remarked, "You're quite a Spartan god," acknowledging Loki's harsh but motivating methods. If you're enjoying the adventure, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more exciting content.